In this video, we are going to do our second tow with the Ford Ranger Raptor, and Alex is going to be towing our Polaris Ranger XP 1000 down to the office. But first, I want to talk about how useful this thing has been, or maybe how compromised it's been, because this is very much a pro and con situation. So Polaris sent us this unit to mess around with this winter. We were able to plow with it a little bit, put it through its paces in the snow, and there's a lot of good and there is some bad with this unit. So let's talk about this plow. Now, it is very useful for light snow. So here in Colorado, we get a big variety of snow, from light, kind of fluffy winter snow to the heavy spring snow. And this plow works awesome in that light winter snow. However, when it gets really moist, a super high water content, that's where this starts to fall apart a little bit, just because this XP 1000 doesn't have the mass to really move this around. Now, a couple things worth noting about this unit: you can control the up and the down via this synthetic winch, but you cannot control the tilt left and right from the outside. From the inside, you have to come outside and grab this red handle to control some of the tilt. But if you do have a small-ish driveway, or we used it on our barn pad, it did work pretty well, and it does make clearing snow quite easy. So let's talk about the rest of the unit. Now, what's kind of mind-boggling to me is just how wide and varied the Ranger lineup is. So you can have everything from a stripped-down utility model to this version, which has, get this, power windows, a heater, and even air conditioning. So check out some of the features. Fully enclosed cab in this model, which makes working in the winter very nice. And then, of course, we've got the full windshield with windshield wiper. Now, the windshield does hinge outward, so if you are wanting some fresh air, that is an option. And then simply grab it, pull it down, and hinge it closed for that winter work. But you can see kind of some of the ventilation systems in here. So we have heat on your face, we've got heat up here to defrost the windshield. So a lot of that is really quite nice. Now let's walk you through some of the features in this vehicle. So of course, electric power steering. We've got the Polaris 1000cc engine, so good power, but it's not meant for performance, it's meant for utility. Now Alex, why don't you come in on the other side and we'll show them some of the features. So, fully enclosed cabin. And first up, power windows. Is it necessary in a side-by-side? No. Is it very cool? Absolutely. Really, really neat. We also have the ride command system from Polaris with navigation. And then there we've got our tachometer, speed, some vital information there. It's got phone connectivity. It's got volume up and down controls, which is really cool. Below that, we have our four-wheel drive selector. So you've got your turf mode for an open rear diff, a locked rear diff, and of course, fully locked into four-wheel drive. We also have different drive modes: work, standard, and performance. Now the work mode I like because it kind of softens up the throttle response a little bit, makes it less herky-jerky. The heating and AC system. Now this is really the highlight for me. This works shockingly well for what it is. You know, considering it's a small engine, it's not a full-size car, it's a really good system, and it keeps the cabin nice and cool. Good size mirror on this model. That all works pretty good. And then over on the left side of the steering wheel, we do have our winch control, so we can actually raise and lower the plow from inside. It's amazing, even with this relatively small plow, how much that front end dips though, and the whole vehicle kind of wobbles around with the plow. And then we also have our wiper there, which does a fairly decent job of wiping the windshield. It's not incredible. Light controls, basic gauge cluster with our tach, and of course our speedometer. And then my only big complaint is in this unit, finding reverse and low. So we have a fairly easy to access shifter, but the detents are just not very crisp. So when you're on a plow job going back, forth, finding low and reverse does take some practice, and it does take a relatively gentle hand, especially if you're trying to go back and forth quickly. So that is something definitely worth noting. Park is all the way at the bottom. Comfortable seat. It does seat 3 abreast. It is a fairly small cab, so it's 6 feet tall. After about 45 minutes of plowing, you're going to start feeling a little cramped because there's just not that much adjustability with the fully enclosed cab. And then as we make our way to the rear of the vehicle, let's check out what we got out back. Ranger being a utility model, we've got that glass rear window. We of course have the tailgate. This can be placed in front when we get rid of the plow for summer duty, which is pretty cool. We've got a 1,000-pound payload capacity on this variant. And then of course you do have that dump bed, which is quite nifty. There we go. It is assisted with a little hydraulic lever, and there you have access to your 2-cylinder Polaris engine, which is also a nice touch. So servicing is relatively easy when you got the dump bed back. So that's kind of a quick walk around. The downside of these prices, right? When you start speccing them up, it's easy to get them over $30,000, $35,000. So it is an expensive unit. The nice thing is it isn't just a plow truck. You can pull the plow off and you can use this out in the summer and have a great time with your friends on the trail. So pretty cool unit, but we're gonna load it up on the Ranger and talk a little bit about how that Ranger tows with Alex driving. So today we're checking out something new. This is the WaySafe weight distribution setup, and we can attach some weight distribution bars on this unit if we wanted maximum stability. And of course, with the WaySafe, you can see your tongue weight. We're sitting right at 500 pounds, which should be about right for this Ranger with this Polaris on it. Now, usually I like to back the Polari onto the trailer because the engines are in the rear, but with this big cutting blade at the front, it means loading it forward is probably the right call.
All right, well, here we go, towing the Polaris Ranger with the Ford Ranger Raptor. And I'm curious about this because this is a trip I've done many times. We move side-by-sides all the time between the ranch and the office. So I'm familiar with this drive, but normally I do this with Trailhound, which if you don't know, that's our Ram 2500 with the 6.7 liter Cummins turbo diesel in it. So that engine, that truck, it's made to tow. This is an off-road performance truck. So we're gonna see how well it tows. Even though an off-road truck like this wouldn't be my first choice to do this kind of job today, we're well within the capability of the truck to do this. The towing rating on the Ranger Raptor is right around 5,500 pounds. The trailer I'm pulling weighs 3,300 pounds, and then the side-by-side is a little under 2,000, but we're probably right at about 2,000 pounds with the snow plow and all the extra accessories this one has. So estimated weight, probably right around 5,300 pounds, so really close to the max towing capacity on this Ranger Raptor. It does have a towing mode, which is nice, so I dialed that in as soon as I got into the truck, and we do have an integrated brake controller as well, which, me personally, I have a Ram 2500 Cummins, and mine didn't even come with a brake controller because it's a tradesman's, so that's nice. Even though this is a mid-sized truck, we've got a brake controller integrated right into the dash, and it's easy to reach. It's on the right-hand side. I'm digging that. Not bad power at all. This Ranger Raptor has a 3-liter twin-turbo V6. It makes 405 horsepower, 430 pound-feet of torque, and it's linked up to a 10-speed automatic transmission. And yeah, you can tell that there's a load behind you, but you get into it, and it's not bad at all. I mean, for a mid-sized truck, pretty impressive power, especially with pretty much a max load behind us right now. I'd be confident taking this on the highway. I wouldn't be worried at all about, climbing over mountain passes. Turbocharged power really makes a difference while you're towing. Also, pretty impressed with the downshifting. When you come into a stop or a red light, it's pretty seamless and pretty smooth. Downshifts a couple times and makes it so you don't need to use your brakes quite as much. It's pretty good. And it's also pretty nice that I've got these massive paddle shifters on the steering wheel. So if I am coming up to a stop or going down a hill, I can just use the paddles right here, drop down a gear, and that'll kind of hold me at my speed instead of having to go to the brake pedal every time. The rear end of the truck did squat quite a bit when we put the truck on. We've got some squat driving down the road right now, but I kind of expected that since, this is a Ranger Raptor. It's got pretty soft suspension that's tuned to go fly around in the desert and go off-road. So you expect it to, sag quite a bit when you throw a heavy trailer on it. But because the suspension's tuned nice and soft, I'm not getting jolted around on the road like you do in some heavy-duty trucks. Still a pretty comfortable ride in here, which isn't always the case, especially when you hook a big trailer with a big load up to a small truck. And I did just want to comment on these mirrors. They're not terrible. I mean, for a mid-sized truck, there's actually a decent amount of glass out of these side mirrors. But I'm not towing a huge trailer right now. It is, pushing the weight capabilities of this Ranger Raptor as far as towing goes, but it's not like a big enclosed box trailer. So I can kind of use these mirrors to see around the side-by-side. I can see, you know, through the deck of the trailer on the inside of the trailer wheels. If this were a big enclosed trailer, I'd probably be wishing I had, you know, a spotter mirror, some additional glass on here. But for at least the trailer I'm towing right now, these mirrors are working just fine. I'm a little more impressed than I thought I was going to be. Like I said, I usually do this job I'm doing right now with a heavy duty truck. We went down 2 sizes. We skipped over the full-size truck down to the mid-size truck. I know this truck was capable of doing it. I thought it would struggle a little bit more, but it seems like a pretty easy task. So I'm gonna keep driving to the office, and I'll show you the trip computer when we get there, see what kind of fuel economy we were getting on this drive. All right, so we have made it back to Boulder. I started this a little bit late, but I got most of the trip. 17.6 total miles according to the trip computer at 11.6 miles per gallon. So yeah, Ranger Raptor towing did pretty well. Would it be my first choice for picking a truck to move a big steel trailer and a side-by-side? Probably not. Some of the bumps were a little harsh. You could tell the suspension isn't made to throw a ton of weight on the back of it. But, you know, if you're towing every once in a while, need to move some toys around like a side-by-side, definitely does the job pretty well. I can see this being a great combo for going out to Moab, having a really good weekend. If your job is to move equipment around all the time, you probably want something that's a little more of a towing truck. But yeah, for doing this kind of stuff once in a while, Ranger Raptor did extremely well. So yeah, big thank you to Polaris for letting us borrow this Ranger for the winter. We're giving it back now, and I'm sure there'll be another one rolling in at some point soon. And max tow with the Ranger Raptor. We have this truck as a long-term tester. We bought this truck, so we're gonna do a lot more with it. And you can check out all the videos we do with this truck over at alltfl.com. So go over there if you don't want to miss anything. I'm gonna get this unloaded, get it back to Polaris. See you in the next video.